So I'm one of those people who plan things before they happen. To reduce stress, to prepare mentally, to make sure I have everything in order before it actually happens. And it just overall makes me feel more in control and more ready for whatever is about to happen. So that is why I started my trying to conceive journey 4 years before it actually happened. 4 years in advance, I did some major things. 2 years in advance, I got a little bit more that I did. And then 1 year in advance, I really stepped up my game. And then 3 months in advance, I did even more stuff before the official, okay, now we are starting to try to have a baby. So this is what I did. 4 years in advance, I stopped drinking, as I'm sure a lot of you know from my previous videos. I stopped drinking so that I could not be an absolute wreck and a struggling addict, and to make my body better, my mind better, all those things, and so I could actually live, because when I was in active addiction, I certainly didn't want to live. So that was definitely had to go. Sure, I quit drinking for so many reasons, but one of the reasons I did was because I knew I one day wanted to be a mother, and I knew that I did have to turn my life around. Next thing I did was quit smoking. I did that when I was 6 months sober. I also did a lot of counseling. I started with AA, and so I had a sponsor, and we did step work, but that was only one part of it. I also went to addictions counseling, and I went to a depression workshop, anxiety thing, cognitive behavioral therapy. So I did all that kind of stuff around getting sober, but it was also to help prepare for my future, to prepare me to be stable, and to prepare me to be a mother. I also went back to school. I got honors in industrial engineering technology, so that I knew would set me up to have an actual career, which I do now, and set me up with actual money so I could get on my feet and get a house and a car and do all the things that I wanted to do. So I knew I would be stable and less stressful when I did eventually become a mother and start a family down the road. Around 4 years prior, or even 5 or 6 years prior, I started fertility awareness method because I stopped taking hormonal birth control for lots of different reasons. Don't even get me started. It's fucking poison. So I started fertility awareness method for birth control, and that worked. It's amazing because once you actually know your cycle, not just know how long it is and not just know how long your period is, but to actually, and what I would do, there's lots of different things that you look out for, and I would take my temperature every morning because when you take your temperature and track other things every day, you know where you're at in your cycle. So day 1, started my period, and then I knew exactly when I ovulated, and then I knew exactly when my period was about to start. So I knew that from lots of different things, and mostly through temperature. So before you ovulate, your temperatures are lower, and then when you ovulate, they go up, and then they stay up. And then right before you start your period, they go down again, so you know it's coming. So I use that method for birth control because really you can only get pregnant 4 or 5 days out of the month. So in that window of time, I just avoided it. And it worked. It's great. It's extremely effective birth control for many people. And if you're not going to use it for that, then you can use it to see if you're healthy overall, because your menstrual cycle is a look into your overall health as well. If your menstrual cycle's off, there's something else off, so you know what to work on. So around 4 years, I really got more into that. I already knew what my cycles were like anyway, but I thought I would temp more, or take temperatures even more, because before it was only sometimes just to see, but I did it even more. And when I did start to do that more, I saw that my cycles were, I had extremely bad cramps a lot of the times, and sometimes I would bleed for weeks on end. So obviously there was something wrong, and had I been on birth control, I wouldn't have known that, because birth control forces your body to go through this pattern, and it covers up symptoms. But anyway, I said don't get me started. So anyways, I saw all this because I wasn't taking drugs every day, so I could actually see what my body was naturally doing. I ended up going to a specialist, and I ended up having surgery. I had a laparoscopic surgery for endometriosis, a fibroid, and cervical polyps. There's a video on my channel all about that surgery as well. So I did that. I started listening to a lot of podcasts about health and fertility and overall women's health, like menstrual cycle stuff. I'll list some podcasts that I listen to here. I also started switching over my household products and beauty products to eliminate as much toxins as I could. I started slow because it is a big overhaul. So I would eliminate things with parabens or perfume, fragrance, and I stopped using dryer sheets. Those are basically embedding poison into your clothes, and then you wear your clothes, and then all the toxins leach into your body and then into your bloodstream constantly throughout the day because clothes are always touching you. So got rid of those, and I started a FODMAP diet. My doctor actually had me do that because I was diagnosed with IBS, so she said, okay, try this FODMAP diet. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's great. It worked really good for me. I also switched to a safer sunscreen, and I started doing yoga every day. That was amazing. Also around 2 years in advance, I started taking a prenatal vitamin, and I took one that isn't from the drugstore. I wanted a more higher end one because I knew that they would actually work a lot better. I also took ones that would be for people with MTHFR gene mutation. I don't know if I have it or not, but I know the stats are really high, that there's a good chance that I could have it. So I just took one anyway, just as if I did have that gene mutation. So I will only have Thorn prenatals or NFH. There's lots of other ones out there, but those are the two that I alternate back and forth because they work best for me. Then around 1 year in advance is when I started to see a naturopathic doctor. She's amazing. I saw her pretty much the full year, and then also into trying to conceive, I saw her. I still see her every once in a while, but I originally went to her to heal my gut because I had IBS and lots of other symptoms too, and naturopathic doctors, that's what they do. They're an actual doctor. They go through all the same schooling as doctors, but naturopathic doctors actually try to find the root cause of things, and they actually, you know, try to figure out what's going on, and they investigate. They're like detectives, rather than a regular doctor that you would go to who would just be like, okay, well, you have this symptom here, take this pill, and that will make that symptom go away. Meanwhile, it makes other symptoms worse, or makes other things happen when they weren't. Anyway, naturopathic doctor, I had to go see her because she actually fixed me in a lot of ways. So I saw her to heal my gut and to understand my cycles better, because yeah, I had been doing fertility awareness method for a few years at that point anyway, but it was just me and the internet and looking up different charts and looking up everyone else's journey using fertility awareness method. So I needed somebody who actually knew about it to help me look at my charts and look and see what's going on with my body. Which leads me to my next thing that I did, which is by taking charge of your fertility. I'm sure you've heard of this one before. It is the Bible of fertility awareness method, and it's amazing. So I use this to help understand my cycles and my health and my body even more. So this was super imperative because I thought I knew a lot before, which I did, but this really helped me fine-tune to know exactly what was going on. Another thing I did was I would read forums and read messages from other women on forums as if I was already trying to conceive. So since I was charting my cycles, if I saw something like a temp was extra high at some point, which was a little different, which was weird for me, I would pretend as if I was trying to conceive, and so then I would Google that. Okay, temp was much higher on 8 days past ovulation. And then I'd find someone else who had the same issue and then read her issue and then read all the responses and get a better understanding as to what's going on. I wouldn't partake in conversations. I would just be lurking the forums and looking up my symptoms and seeing other people have the same things and seeing what they did and what happened to them. So I got a better idea of it that way. And why I did that was because even though I wasn't trying to conceive, I did that so that when the time did come, when I was trying to conceive, then I would already have that knowledge. Well, like for instance, when I was trying to conceive, say, my luteal phase was only 10 days for a while. Luteal phase is time between ovulation and when you start your period. So when I was trying to conceive, it was 10 days long, and maybe my temps, they should be dropping off before you start your period, but they didn't. They were going a little bit higher. So rather than what's going on, oh my God, I have no idea what that is, Googling, I had already done that like 6 months or a year ago. I already Googled what that meant. So when the time came to actually try to conceive and look at my charts and analyze them, I already knew what that meant. I already knew what to look out for. So doing that helped so much with stress. Even though it did seem a little over the top, and it might seem a little over the top to some people, for me personally, it's what I needed to do. Also, in real life, I'm a data analyst, and I know a lot about charts and graphs and analyzing data. So doing that with my own graphs and charts helped me a lot, because I was able to see patterns and able to really understand my body even more. Another thing I did in the 1 year prior to trying to conceive was I started the Paleo Diet. I also did a 21-day Sugar Detox, which is by Diane Sanfilippo, who is one of the co-hosts of Balance Bites podcast. So I bought her book, and I bought her Practical Paleo book as well. So I was really getting my diet in order. And that was amazing. 21-day Sugar Detox was hard, but it was great, and it's something I really needed to do. My naturopath had me do an elimination diet to figure out what foods I was intolerant to, which was key as well, because I was having, brain fog and bloating, and bathroom activities were all over the place. So I needed to really know what I was eating, how it was affecting me, what I should eliminate to feel better. So I did. I also started going to a chiropractor because I knew that pregnancy takes a toll physically on your body, and so I wanted to prepare for that, and because my body was already felt like a bit askew. I thought one of my legs was longer than the other. I had mild scoliosis. I had a lower back injury about 5 years prior, which still sort of hurts sometimes. And I had a neck injury from when I was in my mid-20s, so I wanted to go to a chiropractor to make sure all those things weren't going to get worse, and to fix, and I had sciatica, and have them fix that. So they did, and it was amazing. I also started to go to physiotherapy for the same thing, and they helped a lot because they gave me exercises to do at home, which I did. And at that time, I also went to a pelvic floor therapist because, same reason, I wanted to make sure that everything in that zone was ready to grow a baby. After my sessions with her, she was like, okay, you're good to go. You got good muscle tone. You got your uterus is in the middle. Everything's fine. And my bladder was cool. So she was like, okay, you're good to go. I also went to an osteopath to try that out because I heard good things about it. I only went to one session. I didn't give it a chance, I guess, but I didn't really care for it. More things I did was I started to follow trying to conceive and pregnancy things on Instagram, and that was cool to see because then I was able to see a lot more of that stuff come up in my newsfeed and get me excited and get my mind in the state of, okay, this is awesome. This is going to happen to me too. This is great. And I wanted to see it all and absorb it all and learn. That's what I was doing. I was researching and learning everything and seeing it and getting more exposed to it so that I could get my mind more in that space too. And I also started to listen to more podcasts on health and diet and nutrition and pregnancy and fertility and trying to conceive. I didn't start listening to more trying to conceive podcasts around the 1 year before mark yet, because I knew a lot of them were like bad stuff. I didn't want that bad like infertility stuff to get in my head. So I just started listening to all the good stuff so far and doing more research and getting my body, you know, in order first too, because it was still a year out. I also joined some more groups on Facebook, more like fertility awareness method groups to get better at charting, and some trying to conceive groups as well, just to observe and read what other people were saying. Around 1 year prior, I started to eliminate a lot more toxins, like in household and beauty products, and I learned more about what ingredients to look for. So basically fertility killers like phthalates and perfume, BPA, plastics, and other endocrine disrupting chemicals that are in Jesus everything. And so since there's a lot of bad toxins in everything, then I'm going to eliminate where I can to limit my exposure even more. So I did. Switched to glass, almost everything, as much as I possibly could too. And other little things that I did too, like started drinking a lot more water, which is super important. And I stopped wearing nail polish and stopped using nail polish remover. Google it if you don't know why. To me, it was a really big thing. I also started doing castor oil packs. Again, Google it. It's super important because remember when I was saying I had a laparoscopy, the surgeon who did it said that, well, I had endometriosis, and she said one of my tubes was sort of blocked a little tiny bit, but not really, because she had freed up an adhesion there was scar tissue, basically. So castor oil packs, I know, were good for helping in that whole area and helping break down scar tissue and stuff. So I would do castor oil packs in the follicular phase. I also threw out any beat up non-stick pans that we had. My naturopath started to do Mayan abdominal massage on me as well. Through charting, I learned that my luteal phase was only 10 days long, sometimes 9. So I needed to extend that. Google that if you're not sure why you need to extend your luteal phase to make it longer than 10 days. It really should be 13 or 14 days, but mine was only 10, so I knew that was going to be a hindrance. So my naturopath had me take vitamin B6, and that helped. It extended my luteal phase till about 11 days, maybe 12 sometimes. So that was something else I did. And something else she suggested was seed cycling. So I did that for a while, and that also helped to increase my luteal phase. Also, through a podcast I was listening to, that's where I learned about Mayan abdominal massage, and I also learned about vaginal steaming. Yep, the thing that Gwyneth Paltrow did. So I did it, and it was great, and there's a lot of benefits to it. So I did that too about a year prior. And I also saw a trauma counselor about a year prior to get my mind and to get my mind and emotional health ready, because I had a lot of traumas from the past that were still hanging around and still bothering me. So I went to a counselor, and he helped me a lot with a lot of that stuff to let go of it. And he helped me learn belly breathing and breathing for stress reduction. I stopped buying as much canned foods as I could for BPA exposure, and for the same reason I stopped handling receipts for the BPA, or I would wash my hands right after I touched receipts. Google it. It was important to me. Again, I was trying to do all the things I possibly could to make my chance of conception the highest it could be. We also went to couples counseling just to make sure everything was good there, and to stay strong in that regard. I also started meal prepping a lot more, so I didn't have to eat out as much, and I started to buy more organic foods as much as budget would allow. I didn't go crazy with it because it's expensive, but I did every once in a while where I could do it and where it made the most sense, I would buy organic. I also started to try to eat more organ meats, so liver, hearts, kidneys I haven't tried. So I try to incorporate them more into my diet more, and experimented with different ways of doing that. That didn't last long. I also went to a credit counselor so I can start to pay off my debts so that I could be more financially stable as well. I had my fiance take zinc and multivitamin as well. I started to go to acupuncture, and that was amazing. There's so many benefits for acupuncture. I had kept reading it, but it was expensive. So I wasn't really sure if I wanted to, but closer to right before starting to try to conceive, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. So I started to go to acupuncture, and it was awesome. And he also had me take traditional Chinese medicine, herbs in pill form as well. If anyone's done that, they know it's not just like a pill a day or 2 pills, like how it is with prenatals. It's 8 pills 3 times a day, so 24 pills a day. Thankfully they're not expensive, so that was fine. And he had me take a few different kinds over a few months. I also started taking probiotics. Coconut kefir is what I chose since I was lactose intolerant. That helped a lot too with my IBS. And through seeing my naturopath, I had blood work taken, maybe twice a year or so, just to make sure that I didn't need to supplement where I was lacking in something, or I wasn't taking too much of something. So blood work was really important. So she also had me take, depending on where I was at, to take more supplements like vitamin D, but that was sort of all the time because I live in Nova Scotia, which is really comparable to New York in weather-wise. It's almost the same as New York, but still we're not as close to the equator, so we need more vitamin D. I also took vitamin C as well. I also took rhodiola, and that was for adrenal fatigue. That helped a lot. I had a lot more energy after that. I had a lot more energy after taking vitamin B6 as well. That was shocking. When I stopped taking vitamin B6, I noticed it. Like I was physically tired, and it was harder to get up in the morning and stuff like that. But when I was on vitamin B6, it was great. So I really, really, really recommend vitamin B complex or whatever, B vitamins for energy if you have an issue with that. I also took evening primrose oil in the follicular phase. I also started taking a homeopathic thing that my naturopath had recommended for liver health. And I told her that I really wasn't that big on homeopathic stuff. And she understood that, so this was the only homeopathic thing she actually prescribed that I take. And I did. I took the whole bottle, and it was fine. And after that, she just stuck with regular supplements wherever it made sense that I needed it. So that is it. That's what I did. Do you think I missed any? Because I did. There's a lot of things that I missed. So watch my next video on all the things that I did in the first year of trying to conceive, because there's definitely really important ones in there. And again, some people might be wondering, why would anyone just do all this? This causes so much more stress, and you're putting so much more thought and effort into all this. Like, that's just crazy. But again, that's my personality. I needed to feel like I was in control of my health and in control of my future. And so I had goals, and I achieved the goals. I had goals to extend my luteal phase. I did it. I had goals to not be bloated all the time, and I did it. I had goals to fix my gut, and I did it. So those were things that I needed to do to prepare for trying to conceive, but it also made me a healthier person overall. And again, because like I said before, in my laparoscopy surgery, my surgeon said that I did have endometriosis, and she did remove a fibroid, but fibroids are like that, where they're probably going to come back, because that's what they do. Even though I tried everything I could to avoid that, like I eliminated foods with like phytoestrogens and xenoestrogens, because that's usually how fibroids grow. So I did everything I possibly could, but so that fibroids mixed with cervical polyps, mixed with endometriosis, and with some scar tissue, I knew that it was going to be a little bit harder. And I was in my early 30s, which is harder as well to get pregnant. So that's another reason why I did all these 50 things a year, 2 years, 4 years in advance, because I knew that it wasn't going to be easy for me to get pregnant immediately. So I did all the things to give myself the best possible chance to make trying to conceive as quick and painless as possible. So if you are also doing all the things to prepare to try to conceive, that's awesome. Not a lot of people do that. It's pretty rare. That's dedication. That's really cool. Not a lot of people do that. Or they just, whoops, get pregnant. Or they are like, well, I want to get pregnant, you know, by the summer, and it's spring now, so I'm going to stop taking birth control and let's start taking prenatals now. Sure, a lot of people do that too, and a lot of the times they get pregnant when they want, and it's great. But again, I thought I needed a little bit more help in that department. So if you're one of those people who like to prepare, even if you're planning on getting pregnant like next month, you can take a lot of these points and start doing it now. It's really never too late to start make these changes. Even if you are planning on getting pregnant like in 2 months from now, and you do get pregnant 2 months from now, there's still a lot that you can do to make sure that the pregnancy is healthy and to make sure that you're healthy as well. So yeah, good luck to whoever you are and whatever part of the journey you're in, because I know how stressful it can be. So hang in there and do your best, because that's all you can do.